Good evening, friends, and welcome to the 10th episode of Crime and Punishment, a legal podcast out of Orlando, Florida. Absolutely not a political podcast. This is the podcast of the Invictus Law Firm, PA, a criminal defense law firm in Orlando, Florida, as I said. The website for which is augustusinvictus.com. I'm here with my trusty co-host, Tiger Gin. We are broadcasting simultaneously to YouTube, Periscope, DLive, and Twitch. We are working out all the bugs because we have switched formats to a daily show, or should I say a nightly show, where we are going to bring you the legal news, and we'll bring back books eventually. Tonight, however, we're going to talk about the big news. And of course, there's the news about the Capitol riots, there's the news about the Chauvin trial, but everybody knows what the biggest news in the world is right now. And it has nothing to do with either of those things. The biggest legal news in the world is that everybody knows Johnny Depp was innocent all along. Tiger, do you know what's going on with Johnny Depp? This saga that has unfolded? Not in the least. Well, then let me educate you. Have you ever seen the movie Gone Girl? All right, everyone, and I don't just mean the audience members, I mean everyone in America needs to watch the movie Gone Girl. Because this happens. Not people disappearing, and pretending they were murdered, but women pretending that they were raped because they're mad at somebody and they want to punish that person, so they press false charges against them. Women saying that they were abused because they're mad at somebody, so they press false charges against them. Ruining people's lives, having them imprisoned. Somebody posted this about, it's a picture of Amber Heard with her hand over her heart, and it's exactly the same as Amy in the movie Gone Girl. And it says, chilling. So here's what happened, is that Johnny Depp was accused of abusing his wife, Amber Heard, and who else would accuse him of this except Amber Heard? So he's actually convicted of this. They convicted him of domestic violence. He appeals. And on appeal, all of this incredible evidence comes out, including audio recordings of them fighting and her screaming at the top of her lungs and saying things like, taunting him, like, oh yeah, why don't you tell your side of the story? Like, they're going to believe me because I'm a guy. They're never going to believe you. She's on these tapes admitting that she's hitting him. She's on these, he's on the tape saying, look, if anything ever gets physical, we've got to separate, things it's just incredible. And then you get all these fans of Johnny Depp on Twitter posting all of these pictures of him with bruises on his face because she's on these tapes admitting that she is beating him. She is physically abusing him, and she's on tape doing it. And quite the opposite is revealed concerning him on these tapes. Turns out she made up the entire thing, and he was convicted, and he appealed. And when it got to the appellate court, this is in the United Kingdom, they said, yeah, well, she said it happened, so what are you going to do? No, absolutely not. No. Doesn't matter. Everybody knows that is the magic word, magic phrase. All you have to say is domestic violence. Magic word is abuse. If you say abuse, case closed. A man has no rights. A father has no rights. Can have his children taken from him. A man's career can be ruined. I remember seeing the headlines where he was canceled from his movie studio. Crimes of Grindelwald, right? He is Grindelwald. Who else is going to be Grindelwald? They took him out. Johnny Depp was canceled because of this whole issue, and he was convicted, and he was no longer Grindelwald. Shooting yourselves in the foot. Now it turns out he was innocent the entire time. And the appellate court said, yeah, that's too bad. It's going to stand. And now everybody's up in arms. Is that my phone? I have my ringer on. My bad. I never have my ringer on. I had it on today for some court stuff, but anyway, so that's what's going on. Everybody knows now that he was innocent, despite the corrupt courts saying otherwise. Everybody knows now what happened. So that's a white pill, isn't it? No, it's not in the act of it. It's them discussing the abuse. And he says, like, you started a physical fight. And she says, I did start a physical fight. And he says, yeah, you did. So I had to get the heck out of there. And then she's mocking him. And then he said, because I didn't want anything to happen, he's saying. And then she's saying, I get so mad, I lose it. And she's admitting she is beating him. And the tape recordings say quite the opposite about Johnny Depp. He was absolutely not doing any of this. So evidence is out there. It's all online now. Everybody knows this woman lied about it. So, white pill. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with the trial level aspect of it. I just know that this all came out and the conviction remained. So, but I haven't heard that, but well, it's definitely a policy that when they come out, they're arresting someone. Someone is going to jail. And I tell you, I can't count the number of guys I have met in jail and out of jail. Cops show up because there's a fight going on. The woman has hit him in the head with a frying pan, or she's tried to gouge out his eyes, or she's scratched up his face, or she's hit him with a flashlight. Like I've heard, each of these are separate stories I have heard from different men. These women are attacking them with objects, like obviously trying to hurt them. There is physical evidence of it. Cops come to the house, they say, well, one of you's going to the jail, and the guy says, well, take me because I don't want her going to jail. And he falls on his sword because the cops say, we're arresting somebody. Who's it going to be? The guy does the noble thing, at least what he thinks is the noble thing, says, I'll go, don't arrest her, and then his life is over. It's all downhill from there. I had a client once who, his wife hit him. And I confess to you that when I found out, they called me. That he was my client for financial things, like they had a business. So they were not criminal defense clients. I was doing their business formation stuff, and woman ended up in jail because the husband called the cops on her. And I judged that guy so hard. This was years and years ago. I judged him so hard. Like, well, what are you doing? Calling the cops on your own wife. How could you? And I've known people since, and I'm, how do you call the cops on a woman? Because when I was growing up, my dad being a criminal defense attorney, he'd tell me, you take something like that to court and you say this woman hit me, they're going to laugh you out of the courtroom. You don't call the cops on a woman. That's insane. Now I know. And now everybody knows. If you are in that situation, get out of that situation. If you're not going to call the cops, run. Let me see if I can play this real fast. Did anybody hear that? I hope they heard that. She's mocking him. She's saying, oh. Not again. Not again. This is really... Oh, this guy's saying, Gigi's saying they can hear you. Can I get... All right, let's stick with that. Where can I get the outro from Guerrilla Radio? Invictus, please respond. I don't know, my man. I don't know. Guerrilla Radio is out there in the ether. I can't direct you to it because I love Big Brother now. We do a legal podcast. We absolutely do not talk about politics, but I'm sure the outro is out there somewhere. Who's he? Apparently Gigi. Okay, some people can't hear you. Some people can hear you. I don't know. That's the weirdest thing. Now, yeah. I can hear you. Gigi can hear you. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Yeah, no problem, man. I'm sorry I don't know where to direct you, but good luck with that. Not drunk enough for this. Yeah, well, it's not the most entertaining show, that's for sure. This is a legal podcast. We're talking about legal issues. So anyway, Johnny Depp was innocent. The world knows it now. Let's talk about some other... Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is trending on Twitter, as I said. What I didn't tell you, Tiger, is that my son, my little 4-year-old buddy, he was watching Jurassic Park at school. Hearing that just warmed my heart because Jurassic Park is a classic, man. He's a grown boy now watching Jurassic Park. That is a proud father moment. He's talking to me about how the dinosaurs thing goes back, and he spits venom on the guy and kills him. I was like, dude, this is the funnest conversation I've ever had with my boy. In all seriousness, State Bar approves rule allowing disbarment for prosecutors who hide evidence. This is in the great state of Georgia. So, how about we read through this one here? The Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia and DeKalb County District Attorney Sherry Boston have teamed up to revise and strengthen the state's rules governing prosecutorial misconduct. Now, prosecutorial misconduct is a large heading. You could simplify it, say it's things like hiding evidence. That's a pretty obvious one. Hiding evidence. So a prosecutor has an obligation to give over to you exculpatory evidence. So if there's something that would clear your name and the prosecutor gets a hold of it, they have an affirmative obligation to give that over to the defense attorney, to give that over to you as the defendant. They can't hide that from you. So if there comes up some witness in the prosecutor's investigation of the case, and this witness says, yeah, that never happened. I saw the whole thing. This guy is innocent. If they come across a videotape that shows, yeah, this actually never happened. This person was there, by themselves or whatever, and this guy wasn't even there. That is exculpatory. Prosecutor has to give it over. Now, under the present rules in Georgia, you get a strong reprimand for that. And you've got to wonder how many innocent people have gone to jail because prosecutors hide evidence. I don't know. That's just anecdotal. I don't have these statistics on that, but that is the present penalty. Not a public reprimand. I'm saying the present penalty is a public reprimand. So under the proposed revisions, prosecutors found to have failed to disclose potentially exculpatory evidence to a defendant can face sanctions up to and including disbarment. That's what it should be. Yeah. So right now, you just get a scolding, a really public scolding. Bad prosecutor, you hid this evidence. You don't actually get sanctioned. This should be automatic disbarment if you hide evidence from a defendant that is exculpatory. If you hide any evidence from a defendant, whether you think it's exculpatory or not, that should be disbarment material if you ask me. As you, as a prosecutor, have the highest ethical obligation. Good Lord, the people that you are going against in court, you are putting them in prison. You are destroying not just their lives, but the lives of every family member around them. And sometimes you are literally trying to have them executed. So if you are hiding evidence of an exculpatory nature, hiding any evidence at all, that should you are not fit to practice law. You should be disbarred, 100%. So the revisions adapted from the American Bar Association's Model Rules of Professional Conduct also would require prosecutors to promptly disclose any evidence that may have led to a defendant's wrongful conviction and to work to free those convicted. That is incredible. So if a prosecutor later on, let's say they convict the guy, like let's take Johnny Depp's case, although Johnny Depp's case was in the UK, let's say Johnny Depp's case happened here. Let's say there's somebody falsely accused of domestic violence in the United States. That person is wrongfully convicted. After the conviction, prosecutor finds this evidence that they didn't have before trial. Evidence proves actually he was innocent, like we see with Johnny Depp's case. Evidence comes out, it's exculpatory, shows it never happened. Under these model rules, and they call them the model rules because the American Bar Association is ostensibly the model for the professional rules that all states adopt. Under those model rules, the prosecutor would have to put forth that evidence, would have to give or disclose that evidence to the defendant if it's exculpatory, even after the wrongful conviction. And then, not just that, but they have to work to free the wrongfully convicted person. That is incredible. And apparently, Georgia, of all places, Georgia is adopting this. Boston headed a committee formed to address the issue of prosecutorial misconduct last summer. A few months after the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery in Brunswick, Georgia, spurred protests and allegations that prosecutors in the Brunswick and Waycross judicial circuits stymied the investigation of 3 men accused in the killing, including a former investigator for then Brunswick DA Jackie Johnson, who was voted out of office in November. In an interview, Boston said there was no particular incident spurring the proposed revision. "I wouldn't say there was a particular impetus," she said. "We saw and heard what everybody was seeing in the media, and we shared those concerns. As district attorneys, we have a responsibility to make sure there's community trust, public trust in how we're managing these important responsibilities. We thought it was important to be proactive and not reactive." What an incredible statement. What an incredible statement. A prosecutor saying that they have the duty to correct injustices. Boston, who also serves on the State Bar's Disciplinary Committee, said the Prosecuting Attorneys Council formed a committee to address misconduct and asked her to serve as chair. "We brought in the Solicitor Generals, and each association supported the changes," she said. And apparently there was little opposition in this. So, in a statement accompanying the announcement of those proposed changes, the executive director said that she was proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with Georgia's prosecutors as we work with the State Bar of Georgia to strengthen Rule 3.8 of the Rules of Professional Conduct. So that is what's going on in Georgia. About bloody time. No more public reprimand for somebody who hides evidence. No more public reprimand for someone who is a prosecutor who wrongfully convicts somebody because of their misconduct. Now they can be disbarred. Phenomenal. What's going on in the Chauvin trial, Tiger?
to go and act as special prosecutors for Hawk Vice.
Can you guys hear him now? I'm sorry, Tiger, but they're saying now they can't hear. No sound from him again.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's the broadcasting system. I don't think it's you.
I'm gonna turn off noise cancellation. Cause how's that?
Oh, now they can hear you. I'm just
right.
not going to touch anything. How about that?
Well, I just turned off noise cancellation. It's my suspicion that's what it is because I recently just completely cleared and emptied this room and it's just floor and walls. So I'm thinking that's what was going on now. So
thank goodness. Well, now everybody can hear you. Why don't we start over with what's going on in the Chauvin case?
Let's just start over the show. Just go back.
All right. Jurassic Park is awesome. My son watched it in school. Johnny Depp is innocent. And you can now disbar prosecutors for hiding evidence. You're all caught up. What's going on with Chauvin?
So, all right. What I was saying is that the prosecution team is a team of 14 attorneys. And most of them, save for one, are private big law attorneys that were brought in from out of state for the sole purpose of prosecuting Chauvin. Chauvin has on his team one attorney that was given to him by the police union that he's on. He has an attorney that's what he does. He defends police officers who are being prosecuted, and that is Eric Nelson. The other member of his team is a recent law graduate who nobody knows what she does other than sit behind them two on her computer. So that is his team versus the 14 big law lawyers trying to prosecute them.
14 lawyers. It's like the exact opposite of the O.J. Simpson trial.
And then the other thing is, as of today, we are over 25 witnesses that the state has brought in.
Wait, how long has this trial been going on?
It's been going on for a week and a half now, not counting jury selection.
Holy smokes. I've been living under a rock.
And Eric Nelson, the defense attorney, he has to prepare cross-examination of already these over 25 witnesses that the state is bringing. And he has to deal with all of them by himself, whereas the 14 other lawyers on the prosecution, they get to divide up who they're doing direct and cross of. So that's why I was getting to yesterday when I said to you can have some pity for defense attorney Eric Nelson. That is a lot of work, and I strongly suspect that it is a very deliberate tactic of the prosecution because so many of these witnesses that they're bringing in, they add zero to any of the story at all. Like they brought in the firefighter who showed up late after everybody was gone and just walked into the store and was like, what did I miss? Oh, okay, bye. I mean...
Yeah, it's trying to drown the guy in work, it sounds like. And that happens all the time. Like you'll get, 100 hours of surveillance footage. And they'll provide you their notice of supplemental discovery. And they'll say, we're going to use all of these videos. And they give you the CD. And it's got 100 hours on it. And you're like, what? Where am I supposed to begin with this? And theoretically, you give it to the investigator, and the investigator does it. But at some point, you got to file the motion to say, which videos exactly do you plan to use? Which videos are relevant here? And it sounds like that's what they're doing, is just trying to bury him in irrelevant things so that he can't properly prepare a defense. And I guess, at this point, he thought he was ready. So good on him, man.
Well, and two, at least we know the judge notices this lopsidedness too, because I believe it was like during motions in limine before the trial actually started. One of the dozen lawyers brought up in a complaint against some motion that Nelson was trying to put in, essentially saying he didn't do the type font right or something like that. And the judge, he's there. No, I don't want to hear any of this from you guys at all. You guys got over a dozen lawyers here. I've never seen anything like this in my life. He's got one attorney there. I'm going to look past his mistakes. So the judge is merciful about this. And I personally believe that the judge is running the trial very well, fair for the most part.
Well, that's encouraging. So Freedom Falcon is asking.
I suspect that's why he would not allow the defense to change venue, even though by all logic you would. I just can't help but think, looking at this guy, that he's thinking, I know I'm a fair judge, but I have a feeling if it goes to some other judge in the country anywhere, they're not going to be so fair.
Yeah, maybe he really, really wanted the case. I don't know, because judges aren't supposed to want cases, right? They're supposed to be completely neutral. Whatever happens, happens. If there's no reason to change venue, then we're not going to change it. But then I'm going to bring up the People versus O.J. Simpson here, and in response to Freedom Falcon. So in the Netflix series, have you ever seen that, Tiger? The People versus O.J. Simpson on Netflix?
No.
Oh my God, you're gonna love it. I promise you. It's like 10 episodes, but it's the best 10 hours you'll ever spend as a lawyer. And it's all about beginning to end the OJ trial, and it shows Judge Ito just flipping out, excited and happy to be the guy who got cast the case. Like, it fell in his lap randomly, and he was super excited about it. So judges aren't always as impartial and, uninterested as they're supposed to appear. But also, in response to Freedom Falcon's question, he's asking, are more lawyers always better? Does it depend on whether you are the plaintiff or the defendant? They're not always better. And like Tiger just said, the judge has specifically called out the prosecution. Like, this is unprecedented, that you people have brought in all of these private lawyers. There are 12, 14 of you sitting here against this one lawyer who's tasked with defending this man. I'm not going to let you walk all over him with all 14 of you lawyers. So no, it can look really bad. It can look desperate. If you are on the prosecution, or you a plaintiff, and you have 14 lawyers, any jury or judge is going to see that and think, something is not right here. This is wrong. Why would somebody need this many lawyers if they have a solid case? Why would they need to gang up 14? Like, if you saw a fight at the park and it was 14-on-1, would you think, oh, these guys are really good fighters, or these guys must have a really good cause? You'd think these guys are a bunch of bullies, and there's something wrong here, and your natural human inclination is, could either be, let's join this witch hunt, or it could be, these guys are doing something shady here. So conversely, if you have a defense case and you have 10 lawyers sitting behind the defendant, that's going to look bad. Quite frankly, it's case by case basis.
It looks bad to the jury. The jury is noticing the tag teaming between the lawyers for the witnesses, and this one guy just keeps coming up every single time. He's the only lawyer sitting at the table. They gotta notice that. They have
to, because they do notice it when it's on the defense, right? And it may be, if you have a case like OJ's case where you have to have a team of lawyers, there's no getting around it. You cannot entrust it to one lawyer. And there are a lot of cases where you have two lawyers sitting at the table. I've had cases where the prosecution has had 2 or 3 lawyers on just little old me. And, the jury did not think that looked bad because, if it's a murder case, 3 prosecutors against one defendant or defense attorney might be reasonable. But if you've got a drug trafficking case and you're the defendant and you've got 12 lawyers behind you, what's the natural inclination of anybody sitting on that jury going to be? It's going to be like, well, what does this guy need 12 lawyers for? What is this guy up to? Where does he get the money to hire 12 lawyers? And so these people have to be thinking on the Chauvin jury, like, why would the prosecution need 14 lawyers? What's going on here? That has to be running through their head, even though it's not technically something they're allowed to consider. So, good question.
Another perspective on it that I learned about back when I was interning was they would often, the attorneys, they would often actually want me sitting up at the table with them, even if I'm doing nothing, because they know that the judge, he personally actually likes to see a lot of attorneys sitting at the tables. It makes him feel important. That, it's a big case. Look at all these lawyers here and there. So that's another perspective that happens too. Just throw some bodies up at the tables and it makes you look important.
I have never considered it from that angle. You learn something new every day.
Purposes of it, but that's what I was told. I was like, hey, come sit with us at the table. The judge likes it.
Interesting. There are a lot of judges. Their ego is the number one thing in the room. It's the most important thing going on in the trial is the judge's ego. It happens. And I think we're really, not to defend the system, I being one of its biggest critics, but I think we are lucky that a lot of judges actually do take their jobs seriously.
Yeah.
And they really try. I mean, it's asymptotic, right? And it's impossible to actually achieve perfect neutrality. You have to be God to achieve that, but a lot of judges take that seriously, and they do aim toward being impartial, and they try to be neutral, and they try to be a neutral arbiter between the parties. They really do. And that I really think that is something that is like the last bastion of what is holding this whole circus together, is certain attorneys and certain judges actually trying to do their jobs while everything is falling apart around them.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping as I'm watching Judge Cahill in this trial every day. From what I've seen before, he probably is one of the better judges. There's some things that he's done that I disagree with. Like, for example, during jury selection, there would be jurors that would come up and they'd be like, yeah, I have BLM posts and I post about the George Floyd thing every single day, and I'm always complaining about Chauvin, and I think he's a murderer and everything. But I can be fair and impartial, and the defense would be like, okay, we're going to strike you for cause. And, oh, no, you can't strike him for a cause. He said he's fair and impartial, so he's fair and impartial. Yeah. And the defense had to keep using up all their, what are they called? Preemptory strikes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible how that happens, right? Like, as long as they say those magic words, of course I can be fair and impartial. They're on. You can say whatever you want. I hate cops. I hate them. I'll never trust a word they say. But I can be fair and impartial and listen to all the evidence in this case and make a fair and impartial decision. As long as you say that magic phrase, you're on the jury. It's incredible. Just like, the magic phrase domestic violence or abuse. Like, case closed. There is no due process. There is nothing that will save you after that. Same with the jury. Like, there is nothing that will kick you off a jury if you can say, yes, I can remain fair and impartial. But what's really amazing about what you're saying is compare that to the James Fields case, where people would just straight up, no, my goodness, I've never heard of a car crash in Charlottesville. We've never had a crash here since 1869 when 2 wagons ran into each other. I've never heard of a car crash. James Fields, who is that? and they get on the jury, and boom, life plus 419 years. So people will outright lie to get on a jury and crucify the person. So what's really remarkable is that these people are getting up there in voir dire. Voir dire is what you call it when you're interviewing the jury. They get up there in voir dire and they say, yes, I have heard about George Floyd, and I have been posting about it every day. And I do believe that Chauvin is a horrible person who should be hanged. But I could be fair and impartial and listen to everything, sure. It's amazing that they would even admit any of that. So, who knows, man? Just a weird world we're living in.
Well, going on with the news about the trial, what I've been seeing lately is that Eric Nelson is quite a good cross-examiner, but it's partially helped by the facts of the case, which is where the state, they bring on their witnesses, and he will continually turn the state's witness into his own witness, getting them to say all kinds of things that, like what's been coming out today lately is about the asphyxiation and how the drugs would cause the asphyxiation, but then they also have he's been getting them to admit today, he's been showing more of the footage and photos that the knee was not on George Floyd's neck, it was on his shoulder blades. And he also brought out the police training manuals that all these police officers have been saying, oh no, this technique does not exist. I never saw it before. We don't teach that. No. He brought out exhibits. There it is. What do you see? Oh yeah, the knee, it's a restraining hold. No, it's not a choke. It's not a choke. It just holds him down, and it's on the upper back. And all of that's been coming out, and it got so bad that today that the prosecution, they went and objected to I don't know, a police officer who, I guess she does like medical stuff for the police, medical training, and she was going to be testifying about excited delirium. And
oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, the prosecution objected to it, and the only thing I can think of is that he's had a hard enough day. And the judge went and said, okay, you'll be subpoenaed to be the defense's witness next week.
That's hilarious. I've got a case right now where the other side is having a tough time, and they have tried to literally stop all discovery from happening. We don't want to do discovery anymore. We want to stop litigating. No more motions from this guy. It happens. You go in thinking you're going to convict this guy, and then turns out didn't happen. And then you try to stop everything. So Brian is saying good afternoon from the west, good evening from the east. And Josh was saying, I was planning on voting for you, Invictus, then everything went to heck. This is a family program now. Thank goodness you didn't vote for me. I actually did. I voted for myself. I wrote my name in, because I was not voting for Trump or Biden. Because I'm not political. We don't have any political views on this show. So I voted for myself, because then no one can blame me for anything. But could you imagine if you had voted for me, Joshua? Could you imagine what America would be going through right now if I were president? And totally not political.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be talking about it, but this is an apolitical show. So I will refrain from my President Invictus fantasies.
Well, I can tell you we do need more transgendered persons in cabinet positions. We only have the Secretary of Transportation, right? Last I checked. That is literally the only cabinet position I even know of right now. That is how much I just do not care about the Biden administration.
It's the same with me, honestly. I mean, I couldn't, although I believe she's Secretary of Health, but
That's what I thought, but I looked it up, and I'm pretty sure it's transportation. But the fact that we don't even know is pretty telling.
I've unfollowed all the political accounts on my social media. I'm just like, I just don't care anymore. I just don't care.
Yeah. Just 100% law. Everything is about the legal system. So let's talk about something, switch gears a little bit. We've only got like 15 minutes left. Let's talk about something totally apolitical, 100% about law. And it's a Reuters article. Sorry I didn't send it to you. You know what? I'm going to post it in our chat here, Tiger, so that... of course I can't do that while on air. Chat, there we go. So I'm going to post this in here so that you can see what the heck I'm talking about. But amazing legal article having nothing to do with politics from Reuters. It says, this is the title, the headline. Amid setbacks, prosecutors abandon some claims in U.S. Capitol riot cases. This is from, what, a week ago now? We were in the middle of a week and a half now. We were in the middle of talking about the stellar conduct of the FBI and the Madrid bombing cases when this article came out, so we couldn't talk about it. But this is incredible. Prosecutors made some serious claims after the deadly U.S. Capitol attack, saying they had evidence rioters planned to kill elected officials, suggesting a Virginia man at the building received directives to gas lawmakers, and accusing another suspect of directing mayhem on January 6th with encrypted messages. I even have the list, this blacklist they have here, of all the people they're hunting. I mean, I'm not going to share it in the chat because I don't want to help dox these enemies of the state, but there is a public list of the people that the FBI is hunting and making these insane, these perhaps unprovable allegations. To continue, but the Justice Department has since acknowledged in court hearings that some of its evidence concerning the riot, carried out by a mob of supporters of former President Donald Trump to try to overturn his election loss, that is editorializing by Reuters, not by me, is less damning than it initially indicated. The department, that is the Justice Department, suffered another blow this week, that is the week of March 24th, when U.S. District Judge Amit Mehta threatened to impose a gag order on prosecutors after Michael Sherwin, its former head prosecutor on the Capitol cases, told CBS's 60 Minutes program that evidence pointed towards sedition charges against some defendants. The head prosecutor on these Capitol riot cases goes on 60 Minutes and starts floating the idea of sedition charges against these guys. A charge of sedition, meaning incitement of a rebellion, has not been brought against any of the more than 400 people arrested to date. 400 people arrested for this. Tiger, I was in jail at the time, so I'm sure you know better than me. How many people were arrested for all the BLM riots while I was in jail during 2020? Anywhere near 400?
Not anywhere near 400, but more than people actually think. I was actually making a point of posting every time some of them were arrested on my social media. But I think even in total, I don't even think it'd be over 20.
But do you recall the Justice Department or the FBI putting up a whole list of people they're hunting all across the country with their name, their proposed charges, their location? Like, there are hundreds of people on this list.
Yeah. I mean,
400 people hunted down like Soviet dogs.
Yeah, and then too, I know outside my own home, they had a billboard up telling people to contact the FBI if they knew anything about anybody who was involved with this Capitol, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, they had it all over Orlando too. Multiple billboards. of call the FBI. Here's the
I never
hotline.
I never saw anything like that. Like the closest you would get. So to be fair, normally you would have, like right now, the billboards are showing about a guy who abducted a teenage girl. Like, do you have information on this guy? But just the way that they've been conducting this feels more like I don't know, like they're just grasping at straws, trying to get anybody they can when they don't have any actual. I don't know. It just feels phony to me.
It seems a lot less like groping at straws and a lot more like 1984, like dystopian novel, creating a fake enemy, making fake prosecutions. Like this guy gets on 60 Minutes and starts talking about how he's going to charge everyone with sedition. Nobody has been arrested on that in 400 years. 400 years. I'm looking at 400 people.
Yeah.
Pardon me. But the most serious charges have been assault, conspiracy, and obstruction of Congress or law enforcement. That's the most serious charge anybody has gotten. Assault on the police officer, conspiracy, and obstruction of Congress or law enforcement. Where are all the murder charges? Do you know about that?
I don't even know about the deaths. That's what I find.
They keep saying there were multiple cops who died in these riots, this rebellion that happened at the Capitol. Where are the murder charges? Now, murder is, a state-level crime, but this was in D.C. So, now I'm going to do a Control F. We're going to... Nope, murder does not come up on any of these charges. Assault, 69 times, dude.
Nice.
Obstruction, 191 times. So these are the charges. Sedition, murder, these things are not in there. All over the news, though. That's for sure. Everybody was being hunted for murder and sedition. Rebellion. And yet, even Reuters is pointing out that this case has completely gone off the rails. It was everything that they put toward the media was a lie. And even Reuters is reporting on it. That's incredible. Still quick to say that this was a mob of Trump supporters, these evil people, but even they are pointing out what a circus this is.
I'm trying to imagine what the trials would even look like. Like, what are they going to show for some of these guys? Like,
I'm sure they're banking on not having trials.
Yeah.
Feds don't have trials. Feds threaten you into a hole. They say, look, we've got this, that, and the other thing, and you're going to be spending the next 50 years in AdMax in Colorado if you don't play ball. That's how feds operate. They don't go to trial. They just force you into a plea.
Right. Yeah.
So, I'm sure they'll, cut some people loose, cut deals with people, make them testify against somebody. Somebody's got to take the fall, right? And I don't think it's going to be Trump anymore because I guess they cut him loose a while ago.
Does anybody know what these smoke is in these pictures that they always have? Like, who's throwing gas canisters around?
I don't know. Is that in this? I don't know. Maybe it's just like party smoke,
Yeah.
like rave fog.
Got some foam cannons there.
Couldn't tell you. But this is my favorite. Prosecutors are in the early stages of building criminal cases ahead of the trials stemming from an attack that left 5 people dead, including a police officer. Forced lawmakers to hide for their... Sorry?
Tell us how. How'd they die? I want to know.
Yeah. I know one person was apparently shot in the throat. Saw that on camera. Left 5 people dead, including a police officer. This reminds me, they don't, like you're pointing out, they don't describe how did these people die? Who was responsible for it? It reminds me of Charlottesville. When they said, these deadly Charlottesville riots resulted in all these deaths, including police officers, never mentioned the fact that the police officers crashed their own helicopter. had absolutely nothing to do with the rally in Charlottesville. They crashed their helicopter, which is tragic. Absolutely had nothing to do with the rally, though. And the news did exactly what they're doing in this paragraph right here. An attack that left 5 people dead, including a police officer, forced lawmakers to hide for their own safety, and interrupted the formal congressional certification of President Joe Biden's election victory. But, and this is my favorite sentence of all, but missteps by the government could harm its credibility as accused ringleaders begin asking courts to drop some of the most serious charges. Like they have any credibility left.
Yeah, I mean, I used to, back when I was more political, I would be on those, like, those boards and stuff, and everybody, the FBI is a joke. They literally just make jokes about the FBI. Now they don't take them seriously. They know it's political. It's a political organization. It's not a genuine, concerned police force.
Well, it's a joke to people watching from the sidelines.
Yeah.
But for the people who are actually under the gun, they're not laughing.
Oh,
for
certainly.
them, FBI is leaning hard on them. You're going to take this plea or you're going to get 30 years. So they'll take the plea to whatever ridiculous federal misdemeanor they can come up with. And that is how they save their credibility. They just terrify people into taking pleas to things they didn't do. And we talk about that all the time on this program when it comes to state courts, state prosecutors doing this, but that's exactly what is going to happen in this situation. People are going to be terrified into taking pleas to things they didn't do. It's an actual reign of terror in this country, and it's happening in the courts.
That reminds me, back when I was in law school, I was in a class taught by 2 prosecutors, and they joked and talked about the trial tax. So what that is they give you a plea deal. It's a deal that you'll get 5 years instead of 10 years if you take the plea deal. If you go through trial, then it's going to be 10 years instead, because you forced us to work and do trial.
Right.
So it's a trial tax. And as soon as I heard that, I'm just thinking to myself, is there a trial tax for the defense? Like, if they win, do they get any extra gibs or money or something?
Negative 5 years or, automatic lawsuit damages. Yeah. Technically, it's illegal to punish someone for going to trial, but you know what happens. Oh, we are out of time. Let me read what's actually my favorite sentence. I'll read this paragraph and then we'll be over this, but they are trying to build the most horrendous cases they can because the public wants it. And this is the politicizing of criminal justice. This is politicizing criminal justice, said Gerald B. Lefcourt, who for decades has represented high-profile defendants in political demonstrations, including Black Panther leaders and the Chicago 7 trial figure Abby Hoffman. This is my favorite sentence. The Justice Department declined to comment, saying it cannot discuss ongoing cases. That is my favorite sentence. Justice Department can't discuss ongoing cases. That's why their entire website is dedicated to trashing people that they are attacking in court. That's why they have this website for the capital cases where they've got 400 people listed here with their names, their charges, and their location. No, they don't discuss ongoing cases. That's why they put out press releases. My God, you know what? No, we can't discuss that case. It just became live again. Let's just say there was a case where highly politicized, cross-country case, And the U.S. attorney, as soon as these guys were picked up, immediately held a press conference bragging about it. We got these 8 guys. We got them all across the country. Oh, man. He wouldn't stop talking about it. Held his press conference, went to the New York Times, wrote an article. Everywhere you could find this guy going around talking about these cases. And now that Reuters writes an article saying this case is falling apart, there is no evidence of this, this entire thing was a boogeyman, the Justice Department declined to comment, saying it cannot discuss ongoing cases, and they are concerned that their credibility will be damaged when these cases start getting dismissed. Incredible. Amazing. Any closing thoughts, Tiger?
No, just, again, I do believe people should be watching this Chauvin trial if they have the time, if they can, because the news, they're not reporting what the cross-examination is bringing out. They're just not. So if you want to know why we got the verdict that we got, probably the only way you're going to know is by actually watching this trial.
True. I've got my man here in the comments saying, I love you, Invictus. I will pray for you tonight. Pray not for me, but for your children. We will see you tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Good night, everybody.
Take a look at my life and realize nothing left. 'Cause I've been blasting and laughing so long that everyone thinks my mind is gone. But I never crossed a man to be treated like a punk. You better watch how you're talking and the way you're walking, 'cause this life alone will leave you lined in shock. Been spending most of life living in the gangster's paradise. Been spending most of life situation that got me facing it. I can't live a normal life, I was raised by the stripes, so I gotta be down with the hood team. It's television watching got me chasing.